What's up, CHGO Bears crew? This is the CHGO Bears Podcast presented by PointsBet. Use promo code CHGO when you sign up to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Happy Friday. The end of the week is here. We got some Bulls excitement tonight. We got a big event, a watch party at the Third Rail Tavern. So we got a lot of excitement going on at CHGO today. What's up, everyone? Adam Hoge, Nicholas Moreano, Will DeWitt with you on this Friday. What's up, guys?
Hey, Adam. How's it going?
Good. We also have Bears Twitter exploding.
Yeah. What did you guys do?
I don't know. All we did.
We're going to get into that.
Actually, I don't want to even defend myself. This is how I wanted to start the show today. Will's the guy here that wasn't at practice yesterday, so he's the one who had consumed what came out of practice, and I want to get his take because I just want to make sure, I don't know, did I miss something? I'm a little caught off guard, but there's a lot of hate out there towards those of us who were at practice and simply reported what we saw. So, Will, you want to hate on us? Please bring it. I'm ready.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're supposed to put the blinders on and not mention what happened at practice. And obviously, I bring the fan perspective, but as Nick, we've always kind of adhered to more like the professional side of it as well. So I got, exactly what you guys were throwing down on Twitter yesterday. Like, it was just a poor 7-on-7 performance. I don't know if it's just because some of the tweets mentioned, like, good thing it's April, and people read it with a different tone. Like, that's the only thing I saw that potentially could be misconstrued. But even then, it's misconstrued. It's not like you guys were harping on the kid. Maybe people want blame put, like, on the entire offense and not just Justin. I don't know. But I'm surprised that, I was working on some other things behind the scenes here for CHGO. I log into Twitter, and the whole thing was on fire.
Yeah. I mean, here, Adam, I was thinking about it too. And I was like up at 1 a.m. Not because of this, but just because I was up. And I was thinking, is there anything that we could have done differently? And, just kind of going through different scenarios. Like, we reported what happened, maybe. And here's what the conclusion I came to. It's like, could we have easily put like, hey, the defense looked really good. And that's like the headline. And then as a subsequent, Justin Fields didn't have a good 7-on-7. But then I came back to it's like we still reported what happened. It's based off of the reporting that people just took it out of context, I think. It's like, oh, then you're basing the conclusion that Justin Fields isn't good. So and so then you go into a dark, deep hole of Bears Twitter where everybody hates the media now, and it's April. So we have the draft next week. But yeah, so obviously we've been seeing all the comments and things like that, but come next week, I think people will all forget about it because there'll be all these draft picks in and we'll all be good again.
Look, no one wanted to see the offense look like crap yesterday. Trust me, nobody wanted to see that. Nobody's like showing up to practice going, oh, man, things have been too good the last 2 days. We got to stir the pot a little bit. But, there's one incompletion. Let's jump. That's not how it works. That's just not how it works. And you know what? I did 2 Bears shows yesterday between this one and the Hoge and Johns podcast too. And I don't even think it's really directed at us, quite frankly. I don't really know. But regardless, whether it's those 2 shows or other shows or Twitter tweets that went out or stories that were written, like I read everything. If someone can show me one spot where somebody was like, this is a disaster, or one thing that was put out there that wasn't like Justin Fields and the offense did not have a good day today, but also it's April. So that context matters. I'm pretty sure every single person who was physically at practice yesterday and saw with their eyes, we all saw the same thing. We all put it in the same perspective, and then nobody is panicking.
Besides Bears Twitter.
And
then everyone's panicking.
I also sometimes feel bad about like grouping things into Bears Twitter because hashtag Bears Twitter is just a thing, just like hashtag White Sox Twitter is, and White Sox Twitter is crazy. Those streets are even wilder. But it's not even fair to everybody on Twitter because not everybody's doing that. It's just a couple tweets here and there that start popping up, and it's like I think, quite frankly, the only one overreacting here is you. Like,
me?
No, not you, Will. Not you, Will.
I was like, geez, I didn't even say anything about it. Guys, people just read things and they take it in absolutes nowadays. It just kind of happens. It's unfortunate, but people take the smallest thing and turn it into something it's really not. And again, Nick, I think you hit on a good point where, maybe the focus could have switched to saying like, priority one, the defense looked good, which that's how I read it. Like, hey, Justin struggles. And I heard about like, the fumble like the other day and a whole team corralling the ball and running it down the field. Like, I love that. Like, people are buying into what the Bears are building on defense. And I think since 2018, that side of the ball has kind of missed some of that swag, some of that personality. And seeing that kind of come back, at least what you guys have been able to share, is exciting to me. And I would expect the defense to be ahead of the offense right now, right? Like 100%. Like, it makes no sense. Luke Getsy's figuring out Justin. They're figuring out tackles positions. He has receivers he's never thrown to. Are these even going to be the receivers he's throwing to come September? There's so many variables here to take into it. And I would expect struggles right now. It is only 3 days. It's only the first initial baby steps.
Which I think we actually covered that and said that yesterday. And we did, we did talk about the defensive side and how that was good and how I think I even said that my biggest takeaway from the 3 days was just how well the defense was taking to the hits principle. And like, regardless of the talent and maybe some of the concerns at some of the positions and Jalen Johnson not being out there, like the hustle and the intensity was there. Preston asked, put it in perspective, how many plays did you guys actually see? Not a ton. And that's part of it too. But I think part of what becomes concerning in just, again, one practice in April, which nobody's blowing out of proportion, and I think I said this yesterday too, it's like when 5 snaps in a row all go poorly, like when there's a run on them. And so regardless of how many, whatever the total was, the thing that was different yesterday compared to the previous days was the percentage of plays that the offense struggled. And it's okay. I mean, those days are going to happen. They're going to happen in August. And we're going to tell you when they happen in August too. And we're going to tell you when they have good days. I said on Tuesday, I thought Justin Fields looked great. And when I said that, I also added the caveat, they didn't even face the defense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's only so much I can say about Justin Fields looking great and very, very accurate when he's going up against a scout team that includes half of them being coaches. So nobody's overreacting here. It's just, it wasn't a great day. And it's all right.
It is okay. And you guys, your job is to say, and what the Bears will allow you, which I know that's always, limited at best, but you see the limited action and it's your job to say what you saw. And you can't like turn a blind eye. It's like, oh, Justin struggled, but that means there's nothing to report. You have to say it. And I get it. Some people don't. And again, I think people just take the smallest things and blow them up nowadays. And it kind of is what it is. But I don't think anything was wrong, based off of what you two did or really anyone else in the beat.
And I see this comment here, AJ Lorenz. So Justin Fields looked like a typically Iowa Hawkeye quarterback for a day. Okay, well,
wow,
yeah.
now that's
and that was 5 plays. It was 5 plays that happened, and that was it. But again, hopefully we'll move on from this, and we will, because the draft's next week, and this random 3rd day of voluntary minicamp will be done and over with, and who cares about it, and it'll be done with.
Yeah. Someone said that's what practice is for. That's true.
Exactly.
And that's what we're all getting through. But if we're at a bad practice, we're going to say it's bad. We're at a good practice, we're going to say it's good. That's just how it works. And it's fine. So, but I don't even really want this to turn into a conversation about like reporting versus fans. That's not even the point. It's just that I think the reason we are having this conversation to start the show today really has more to do with just the idea of, really, I think Will's putting it in the best perspective. Like, this is going to be a process. It's going to be up and down. It's going to continue to be that way. And I don't even think anything was directed at us. If anything, I'm defending some of my our compadres who report on this stuff. It's just, you got to be prepared for this. It's going to be a process, especially as Justin throws the new wide receivers, and there's probably even going to be newer ones that come. It's just going to be an up and down thing. And as we try not to overreact, like, the same thing needs to happen with the fans until, I think, when we'll get to that point. Like, if we're in the 3rd week of training camp and things are awesome, that matters. That's going to matter too, in a very good way. And if they're same thing. Like I think it was on this show yesterday. 2019, Mitch Trubisky. Like when that got into like double-digit practices, and it's not going well, and I'm talking about in training camp. Then you're like, okay, now is the time where this is probably should be a bigger discussion about it being a problem. And you guys all know, I think, how all of us feel about Justin Fields on this podcast. So, I
get it. And if we get like later in August or even now, and Justin does good, like we also would have to mention, like, well, the defense did not play up to the level that we would expect out of them. They struggled as well. It's when one side of the ball excels, that means the other side of the ball is struggling. It's just give and take. It's how the game of football is played. So I appreciate, you saying like the perspectives here is right. And really, guys, like growth is never just like a straight line. It's never linear. Like that was like one of the early life lessons I had in my early 20s. Like you're not always going to just consistently get better. Like there will be dips. And then from there, you have to kind of move up. It's like a up and down. As long as it's going up, we're in a good spot. Like overall, it's like the stock market. You want it to go up. There will be dips. But overall, as long as it's pointing up at the end of the day, like the Bears are getting better and that's good. Unfortunately, it's the last day of minicamp, so now we have to wait a bit, but it is what it is.
And I want to speak to my guy here, Lou, who's commenting. And he's upset because like we're not giving enough details from what we saw. And again, we kind of addressed this yesterday. Unfortunately, we are bound to the rules by which they do not have to let us into practice at this point. The Bears I'm talking about. Okay. So by letting us in, we have to follow certain rules and we cannot give away every single thing that we see. Unfortunately, that's just the rules or we're not let in. So it's frustrating to you. I get it. It's frustrating to us too. Trust me. So I just wanted to address that because I get where you're coming from. If we're going to be critical of a practice and we're not specifically saying, oh, he, led a wide receiver into a safety too far and put the receiver in harm's way. And I'm just giving a random example here. Or he, overthrew a guy completely out of bounds and what I like to call a foul ball. I get where you're coming from. There's just some things that we have to go by. So again, kind of just setting the stage for some of the shows that we're going to have here going forward when we get to see practice, and we're going to break this thing down because the great thing about what we're doing here at CHGO is we have these daily shows. And we're going to talk about this stuff when we see it. And I understand the fans do not want to hear when it doesn't go great. But unfortunately, we're still going to talk about reality. It when it does. I also hope that everything goes great. And we're talking about a 17-0 football team next year.
Hey.
Yeah, that would be nice. That'd be nice, but I'm just I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Well, hey, we got a lot of fun stuff playing here the rest of the day. So let's put that behind and move on. We got NFL draft talk to talk about. There was while we were watching that practice yesterday, our great coworkers on the CHGO Sports Podcast were doing an all-time Bears draft, which you guys may have seen pop up in your feed. Because it's on your podcast feed, if you listen to it there, it's also on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed and hitting those notification buttons, and please rate and review the podcast as well. If you listen to us that way, there was an all-time Bears draft that we have to address. I have some strong thoughts on some of the things that went down. So we'll be the draft analysts here because we were not included in the draft. So we will be the analysts and break down what happened. And also, I hope everybody checks out that podcast. But right now, the best way to support CHGO is to download the PointsBet app. Use code CHGO when you sign up. And if you do that right now, you'll get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. But that's not it. If you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. $2,000 in free bets, a free CHGO membership, and a free t-shirt from the CHGO locker, all for making more than a $50 first-time deposit at PointsBet. Any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com. We'll help you out. Your home for live in-play betting just got even better. Introducing PointsBet's new feature, the live NBA same-game parlay. For the first time ever, you can build a perfect live NBA same-game parlay only with PointsBet. Combine your favorite bets during the game, boost those bets, watch live, parlay live, boost live, all with PointsBet. An online signup is available now in Illinois. Download the PointsBet app right now. Register your account from start to finish, all from your phone. What are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
All right, Chicago sports fans, if you aren't a member of our CHGO family, what are you waiting for? Members will have access to all of our premium content from all of our great writers. You also get a free t-shirt of your choice when you become a member, and you get access to the members-only Discord, the CHGO Lounge. And, of course, we have podcasts and live shows on every team every day. And so come join this amazing family. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, I see Nunu Johnson was asking, when were these shows? You missed the last 3. Got to hit the bell notification on YouTube. You'll get that notification when we go live. We were at the mini camp. So, yeah, definitely do that, and you'll never miss a show. But come join this amazing family that is constantly growing here at CHGO.
Also, make sure you're following us on CHGO_Bears because we put the schedule up earlier on in the week. And I don't know if we have that pinned, but we should have that pinned if it's not towards the top of the account. That way you can kind of keep track, because next week's schedule is going to be all over the place with the draft. So we will communicate that to you. However, 11 o'clock Monday is our show time. Olin Kurtz will be back. Everyone's been asking about Olin. Austin says Olin needs to read an ad on Monday. Frankly, I think for missing all the shows he did, he should have to do all the ads on Monday.
All the ads.
We challenge him to that.
I like that.
I think so.
Yeah, he'd be down.
All right. So let's knock out our prospects for today, and then we'll jump into some of the stuff I saw in the all-time Bears draft. And then towards the end of the show, guys, I need to do an ode to a Bears player who's still a current Bears player, but probably soon to be former Bears player. Just guy doesn't get enough respect. So got a lot coming here. Let's see. Who should we start with today? Will, you want to do your prospect? You want to start?
Sure.
You have the honors?
And I'll keep it brief. I had a message from a really good listener of ours. They're like, hey, your breakdown in that 5th round corner was probably it was too long. I'm like, okay. So we're going to, and that's the problem going first and not being on here every day. Didn't know exactly what we're looking for, but I'll digress. So for my pick here today, I actually did someone who I highlighted in my brand new mock draft on allchgo.com. It is free for everyone, so definitely head over there. I traded down twice, gave the Bears 9 picks to work with, and I was really impressed and happy with my haul. But with round 5 pick 148, I went with Velus Jones Jr. He is the wide receiver out of Tennessee. As you can see, 4.3, 140. The dude is super fast. What I appreciate about his game, that he has that plus run after a catch ability. He's violent with the football in his hands. He fights through contact, and he's also has really great vision to kind of avoid defenders, zigzag through them, and find his way to the end zone. He offers the Bears inside-out versatility. They can line him up outside, but a lot of his damage can happen in the slot. He's a special teams guru, if you will. He's someone that can be a kick returner, one of the best in the nation last year. He was the 2nd best punt returner last year as well. And in terms of like what he can do on offense too, I mentioned the rack. That's something that the Bears really missed out last year. Mooney was good, but outside of him, the Bears really struggled. I remember Eberflus mentioning at the combine, like, hey, we want guys who can make plays after the catch. We want Justin to get that ball out quick. Velus Jones Jr. really fits that mold to a T. The only concern I would have is the fact that he is going to be a 25-year-old rookie. He played college football for 6 years between USC and the University of Tennessee. But looking at this from like a humanistic perspective, like everyone has a different path. Not everyone goes the same exact linear route. We kind of talked about that a little bit ago with the offense and some of their struggles. But the fact that he kind of stayed with it and is now able to kind of achieve his NFL dream, to me, is a testament of some of that resilience and I guess this desire to be a difference maker at the next level. So I'm going to go with Velus Jones Jr. here as a potential mid-round guy that the Bears can target at the receiver position.
Okay.
I like it.
I'm also going to go with the wide receiver. And very similar to your guy there, Will, I'm going with Beau Melton out of Rutgers. Guy's 5'10", 189 pounds. He's just not as fast, Will, with a 4.34, but slug. that's still pretty damn fast. But he was productive at Rutgers, and he was a leading receiver the last 3 years there. And despite having inconsistent quarterback play at best there for Rutgers, and he actually left Rutgers with 164 receptions, 2,011 yards, 11 touchdowns, which is 6 all time in receptions in the 56 games that he played, third all time. So, he can stay healthy there, something that not all Bears players can say for themselves. And he really made a lot of plays at the Senior Bowl. I didn't know Beau Melton going in when I was down there, but you saw that red helmet constantly with the football in his hands and making plays. You're like, okay, you got to now mark and see who this guy is. But Yak, yards after catch creator. You see a lot of the big plays that he made for Rutgers. It's being able to not only just catch the ball, but keep that balance and then also find extra opportunities to get yards. So again, like you mentioned, Will, some of the Bears just haven't had as of late. And he also does have that return and some rushing experience. He has 25 total rushing attempts for 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. He actually had some running back experience in high school. And he also has some kick return, punt return experience, 11 kick returns, 293 yards the last 2 seasons, 5 punts last season. The thing he needs to work on, though, Will, hands, route running. I thought that he did have a couple of those concentration drops. And I think that's just because he's looking to get those yards after the catch. So if he can kind of find that balance, he can fix that area of his game. And I think he wasn't the most versatile in terms of where he was lining up. So kind of getting that experience of running different routes from all over the field, I think will be beneficial at the next level. He is projected to go in that 4th, 5th round, but fits what the Bears are kind of looking for in terms of speed and productivity.
Could I highlight real quick, like the Bears struggles with Rack as well as like where Melton as well as Jones kind of fit real quick?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Last year, out of 94 qualifying receivers who saw at least 46 targets, the Bears only had 2 guys qualify for this. Mooney was 25th in the league. He averaged about 4.8 yards after the catch per reception. And the only other Bear was Allen Robinson, who was 92nd out of 94. Only 2.4. Yeah, that's it. Just kind of puts into struggles. I know some of that scheme, some of that's the Bears offense in general last year, but my guy Velus Jones Jr. today was 4th in this class with an 8.3 yards after catch per reception on average, and then Beau Melton somewhere in the middle, but still pretty good at 6.3. So all higher than the Bears had last year. And again, like having some of these guys, and in my mock draft, I went with another receiver early. He was my 2nd pick. So I know some people are like, no, we need other taller guys. I got that taken care of, but just wanted to kind of highlight like some of these guys that Nick and I mentioned are giving the Bears what they're kind of lacking, what they're needing, and what they're looking for.
No, it's a good point. My guy today is an offensive lineman, and I'm a little frustrated because I thought, okay, we got a guy that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, and then like just a couple hours ago, Jordan Reed on Twitter put out a tweet about him, and I'm like, no, stealing my thunder. But Jordan Reed does a great job, and actually just makes me feel even better about it. But Arizona State center Donovan West is my prospect today. Good size at 6'3" for the center spot. Also has experience at both guard spots. Room to get stronger as well in that frame. And he's a scheme fit, guys, because he's got good mobility to the outside. I think he'll fit a outside zone running scheme. Pretty impressive college career, actually, in my opinion. Never missed a start until the bowl game this past year because he finally had to have thumb surgery, an injury that he basically played with through all 29 of his games, or at least going back to his freshman year. And he was supposed to redshirt as a freshman. They needed him to play week 1 at center, a position he had never played before. He did it. He ended up playing a couple games there and then 11 games at right guard, spent the 2020 season at left guard, and then finished back at center last year. So versatile on that line, would give the Bears some options. Now, I think he's probably best suited at center. Shorter arms would be the knock on him, why he's going a little bit later. And I guess you got to check the medicals on that thumb surgery to make sure everything's good. But for a guy, if you're not talking about the 2nd round, which we've spent a lot of time talking about possible offensive linemen in the 2nd round, I think this is a guy you could get potentially, maybe even, I mean, I've seen 5th round even thrown out there. I think probably 4th round. Again, Bears don't have a 4th round pick, but if they can move back and get one, that might be a guy that you try to target in the 4th round to address that giant hole, quite frankly, they still have at right guard. So maybe a draft pick like that could kick Lucas Patrick over to guard. They'll have to work that out, but interesting prospect that I think you can get some value with later on.
So he's someone, Adam, that you're looking at if he falls to the 5th round as an option, not someone that the Bears should, if they don't move and they stick with their picks, like in the 3rd round, that's still a reach.
Yeah, I think so. I think with those shorter arms, there's a reason why, Linderbaum and the Nebraska center he broke down yesterday too will go earlier.
Juergens, yeah.
Yeah, Cam Juergens. So, but I'm also trying to keep my eye on, because I keep thinking about this. That Friday, we're gonna have a great draft show. I'm really looking forward to doing it next Friday as the Bears are making their pick. There's going to be drama because there's going to be a position that the fans and probably us too are freaking out about them not addressing. Like if they go with that 3 technique with the first pick, and then
corner. Say it's a corner.
Yeah, if it's
a corner, people are going to lose.
Everybody's going to be losing their minds. So but the point is, it's whether it's wide receiver or even corner or O-line, like there's going to be somebody they pick like in the 5th round, or I'm really hoping they can add a 4th rounder by trading back somewhere. If they get that extra 4th round pick, they're going to address like one of those spots later. They're just going to have to. They have too many needs to fill them all with those first 3 picks in the top 71. So I'm just kind of looking at some of those guys, and I feel like Donovan West, Mr. West, I'll call him, fits that spot maybe a little bit later on.
Friday's going to be fun, like you said, because I'm working on an article like ranking the Bears' needs. And like you said, like once you get away from maybe like some of those mild needs, a lot of them become urgent and they can go in so many different ways in this draft. So I can just see all of us there, let's go with this position. No, they need to go here. And depending on how the board falls, and one of us, or maybe all of us, like, no, it's time to trade down and get more picks too. So it's going to be in, like you said, Adam, like no matter what happens, if they trade down, whatever position they go, there's going to be a segment of the fan base that is not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, real quickly, guys. Like, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Lauren. Like, why is Nick wearing a box? It's my old, like, bowl jacket from my dad. Like, this is, I mean, a boxing. I don't know. Like, but no, you got to.
It does kind of look like that when it's cut off.
All right, so I just got to make sure this is up here. But see, ready, guys. Big game tonight. So gotta represent the Bulls right now.
I was hoping, awesome. Lawrence could have came in with like the Rocky song, like da-dun, da-dun. No, I'm not gonna hum it or anything, but that would have been perfect timing.
It would have been.
How big is that? What size is that jacket?
That's a good question. This is an actual starter jacket.
Yeah.
Is that like from the 90s?
Probably. All right, we're stripping here. It's okay. This is happening.
Well,
this is. Oh wow. Okay. Oh, it's only a medium.
Oh, really?
I guess they just swim in a medium.
I feel like sizes back in the day were a little bit bigger.
They're baggy, right? That was kind of the look.
The baggy style. I gotcha. Yes, I see you. Hashtag seared. We're just gonna have to keep that going. Hashtag seared.
We're gonna get that clip tonight, so we'll be good.
Okay, great. Can't wait for that. All right. Yesterday, while we were watching that glorious practice at Hales Hall, the CHGO Sports Podcast, led by Kevin Kaduk, was having an all-time Chicago Bears draft. They even brought our guy Greg Braggs in for the draft, which I was excited about. Jake Flanagan, our GM, was also involved, and Herb Lawrence. So you see those names: Herb, Jake, Greg, Kevin. Those are the crew that were involved. Very enjoyable to listen to or watch. So it is in your podcast feed. It is on YouTube for you to check out if you want to hear their reasoning. But we are now the draft analysts for this thing, and we have to break this down. Starting with guys, that number 1 overall pick from Herb Lawrence. I got a lot of love for Herbie. And he goes Dan Hampton over Walter Payton. Your thoughts?
What the hell?
Yeah. That's questionable. Very, very questionable. Walter Payton is it should be number 1 all the time, every single time. But yeah, Herb thought differently.
I'm going to say another advice would be stick to baseball. But no, Herb's a great guy. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe he just has a real big affinity for Dan Hampton, like some affection there. But passing on Walter, I just have to shake my head about it. There's like no other, I guess, response needed than what is he doing?
So I will defend him a little bit. I'm not going to give away everyone's rationale for all these picks because it's all on the podcast and it would take way too long for us to go through them all. But so the way the draft worked is you picked one person at every position, and only one old lineman and only one D lineman and only one corner, one linebacker. So his thinking was the Bears have had so many good running backs.
True.
That he could get one later. And so he was like, I'm just going to grab who in his opinion was the best member of that defense, the 85 Bears, and went with Dan Hampton. That was his logic. So Jake got Walter Payton to fall to him at number 2, which was pretty cool. Now, I want to fast forward a little bit. You guys can feel free to jump in with anything you see here. But Kevin reaching for Mike Ditka in the second round. Again, his logic was not a lot of great tight ends. Take care of it early. But look at Greg Olsen going in the 5th round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I will defer. Maybe we need to bring Lawrence on in this one. He probably saw Mike Ditka play. Is Greg Olsen better than Mike Ditka as a tight end?
Not cool.
Sorry, man.
I'm not going to say that I saw Mike Ditka play, but
I know you didn't see Mike Ditka.
I did see Greg Olsen play. Did you guys see Greg Olsen play?
I did, yes.
I did. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe some of our commenters, I don't know, will have strong opinions on that. I just thought Ditka was a little bit of a reach with the 5th overall pick.
I also did.
Okay. Good. Yeah, you were there.
Sure, after you guys.
What was that?
I said you were there for the draft, so you can.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, come on, like the Hampton thing. I love Herb as well. We share a last name and a first name, and like, you just got to go with Walter. I don't care that I can get another running back later. It's Walter. This isn't fantasy football where running backs are come and go. This is Walter Payton we're talking about. So that was a little disappointing to start the draft, but hey. It made Jake's team look pretty good. If you ask me, I think Jake won.
Mm-hmm.
Well, his reaction
agree.
was hilarious. He was like, I was listening to the podcast, so I couldn't see the video, but I'm sure he was just like jumping up and down. Like he sounded like he wanted to run to the podium and throw Walter Payton's name in there.
Although later in the pod, he was, and this is actually, he was helping with building the graphics. There was a lot of graphics to do.
I bet.
And so he didn't have his notes with him, so we almost skipped him like the Vikings a couple 8th round, but we ended up not doing it. Mule Skinner's a Ditka guy. There you go.
Yeah, Mule Skinner. Okay.
For Jake's class, like which position was Hallis? Because didn't he play like end, like which is very vague, and football's more Ironman back then. And I also see like McMichael on there. And
hold on, let me lose that comment. Sorry, there, Mule Skinner.
I mean, they get a hell of a coach.
Was that his?
That was in round 5.
End? Did Hallis play tight end at all?
Would it be tight end? There's just no. I look for film on Hallis. It just for some reason it wasn't available.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Yeah, people's iPhones back then were terrible. But I think it was tight end. I'm not sure, honestly. And then who's George McAfee? I forget that guy as well. So I'm not really positive of who went where. But
the next one I wanted to address is just, to me, a bad business decision. Okay, so you see, it's a snake draft. If you're watching on YouTube, you could see this. For those of you listening to the podcast, you get to the end of the 3rd round, turning to the first pick of the 4th round. Kevin had both of those picks. Okay, and he takes Jay Cutler and then Olin Kreutz. Okay. Now, you had back-to-back picks. So I'm just saying, if it were me, I would have taken Olin first. But I guess Kevin can explain that to Olin in person on Monday when Olin returns.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Olin replied to that too. I think he replied to your tweet, Adam. Yeah. He said, always go QB first, figure everything else out from there. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll understand, but I'll let Kevin.
I think there was some
address that on Monday.
sarcasm in that tweet, though. I think there was.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
Other
also-
thoughts I have, like Patrick Manley for Kevin. Like if you're going with a special teamer, I get Devin. He can give you some points. I get going with like a Robbie Gold, but like, what's Manley gonna do? Like I love him. He's a great guy, but like,
It was his last pick. He was kind of losing at that, but we were about an hour 10 into the podcast.
Wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. We can't knock the long snappers.
Yeah.
One of
I'm
the
not
most-
locking it. I'm just wondering, like, how this draft is laid out. Like, I don't know how the value.
He was actually asking Chad about who he could take from that special teams position, and people were suggesting Johnny Knox, and he's like, I just can't take Johnny Knox. And then someone said Manley is like, sure, I'll go with Manley. We love Patrick Manley. So
Manley is a top 100 Bear, or
and
he should be. I forget if he was or should have been.
Manley has a beer, right? Doesn't he have the long snapper
He
IPA?
does.
So
It's
there you
pretty
go.
good,
Mhm.
too.
And Kevin likes his IPAs, so there we go. As do
Makes
I.
sense. It fits.
Yeah.
All right. That was pretty cool, though. I enjoyed that. So I encourage our listeners to check out the CHGO
check that
Sports Podcast if you haven't already. Yes.
Seared. Got a seared tonight.
Hashtag seared.
I'm getting out of here. Get me out of here.
Can't
Bye,
wait to
Lawrence.
leave. We will be at Third Rail Tavern tonight, 7:00 for the Bulls Bucks game. And we'll hopefully be
Be fun.
hashtag searing there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a little late, which is hopefully it's not too crowded in there. But looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good time. I'm just again really looking forward to being around Matt and seeing just his reactions the entire game, because it's gonna be a roller coaster ride.
Yeah. Which you could usually see on Twitter if you're following the CHGO Bulls account. But yeah, I think it's good. All right. Got a quick message from our friends at PointsBet, Nick, and then we'll jump into, I just have thoughts on a quarterback that we need to talk about.
Yeah, so if you enjoy CHGO, one way to help us to continue to grow is to download the PointsBet app and use code CHGO when you sign up. Not only are you going to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000, but if you make a $50 or more first-time deposit, you'll receive a free CHGO membership, which unlocks all of our web content. You'll even get a free shirt of your choice from the CHGO locker. If you have any questions, email pointsbet@allchgo.com and we'll help you out. And in case you missed it, online sign-up is available in Illinois. You'll be signing up with the fastest sportsbook, easier than ever, so you can start living your bet life in seconds. So what are you waiting for? Once the game starts, don't just bet. Live your bet life with PointsBet. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
And just a reminder that you can get all of our written content. Nick has observations up from all 3 days of Bears minicamp at allchgo.com. I'll have a Big Ten Bears Things column coming Monday. Guess I could tease this. I am going to do the dream Bears mock draft in my Bears Things column on Monday. So that's another way of saying I am going to ignore all like the
The position rankings and everything. And
just like if you're to
Do
just
it.
set out the best case scenario of how everything could fall, that would be how it's going to go. And I'll be somewhat realistic. All right. Like I'm not going to have, I think we're past the point where Chris Olave is going to fall to number 39. Okay. But that'll be in there. I'll have some observations coming from, that was a timely comment from Joseph there. Olave ain't coming to Chicago without some sacrifice going forward. That's true. So that'll all be in the Bears Things column coming up on Monday on allchgo.com. That's where you have to be a member, and please go sign up, be a member. You get a free shirt when you become a member, and you get access to the Discord, the CHGO lounge there. And member or not, you can go to our website and order some of these shirts like Nick is wearing right now. Will, what does your shirt say today?
Oh, it's a Naruto shirt. If you know Naruto, Adam, and if not, we can have a great conversation when I'm in the city next week.
Okay.
But real quick too about becoming a member. I don't know if anyone else has done like math exercises, but if you sign up for the annual membership, it's like it's 25% the cost of Netflix a month. like 1/4 of the cost of
you go.
Netflix. And you're supporting local journalism, us covering these teams and CHGO. And I think for, pennies on the dollar compared to the Netflix prescription, I think you're getting a little bit more value here for sure. But just wanted to let people know like that and put in some context.
Yeah, well, it's a good point, Will. So it's all there for you, and we're going to start doing more and more like this event tonight that we're all excited about. So come see us tonight at Third Rail Tavern. Okay. Nick Foles.
He's a guy.
What is your favorite Nick Foles game? Like, how would you define the Nick Foles game? Like, which one are you picking?
It's got to be the first one, right? When he jumps in for the Falcons and he's wearing the visor initially, and I don't think he ended up wearing it in the game. And you're like, oh, Nick Foles is about to do damage here. And he did. He got the Bears back into that game and, comes back after Trubisky gets benched. And I think that's the one game where you're like, okay. And then it kind of never amounted to that hype since then.
Oh, there we go. Run to the L. See, mirroring cameras.
Yeah.
You just never know which way to go. Yeah. I think he wore the visor in the first drive and then he ditched it.
Yeah, something like that. So I, for some reason, think of the Seattle game last year because it got to the point where like you forgot he was on the team. And then he just comes out of nowhere, snowy day in Seattle, which is just weird, Christmas. And just like classic Nick Foles, like don't care. Don't care how bad this team is. Don't care who I'm throwing the ball to. Who caught the ball in the end zone again on the 2-point conversion? It was
that
Marcus Goodwin? No, it was Bird. It was Damiere Byrd. Yeah. Right? Like what did Damiere Byrd made 2 plays in Chicago. Basically,
that's
he had the big play against the Packers, the catch and run, and then he makes that incredible catch in the end zone. And it's just like Nick Foles, of course, he's just going to go into Seattle and beat Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, and that wasn't a good Seattle game, or team, I should say, but still, it was kind of an impressive performance. And then he just goes back to the bench. We don't see him. Someone else brought up too on Twitter the Buccaneers win.
That's mine.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that game is more, I think, predicated on like the defensive effort and what they were able to do to Tom Brady. However, if Foles is in the quarterback, like does the defense play to that level? Because Foles is the Brady killer. Like we know this, and up until that point, the Bears never beat Tom Brady. Like that's something in my lifetime that I knew each and every time we played the Patriots, and then of course with the Bucs. Like there's the Brady beat every team, and the Bears they couldn't do it. And Nick Foles was the quarterback to find a way for the Bears to, beat Tom Brady at least once in his career. And I'm thankful for it. So that is like why that's the game. And again, like he's someone that can beat Tom Brady every time apparently, and he won't get his hand shaken, and it's a whole story. But for me, that's why, that's a game that I always remember about the Nick Foles. I'm not going to call it an era, but his time here in Chicago.
Okay. So here's my point. This is a franchise plagued with awful quarterback play. And I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that Nick Foles played well in some of the other games we're not talking about right now. But how many quarterbacks that have played for this franchise could say in a 2-year stint with the team that they had 3 games like that where you like actually have somewhat of a debate between them of like, which was that like Nick Foles game. So
yeah,
I'm just trying to put that in perspective of like the full franchise. I'm not saying the Bears should keep him or anything like that. That's not the point. It's just like, let's have some, I just don't know that there's an more underappreciated player in the NFL than Nick Foles. And somebody had a good comment up earlier that was like, he's like the one-hit wonder, and then but you don't want him taking over the whole show. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, Joseph put on there. Foles is a one-hit wonder. He could play or fill in for the band time to time, but when he has to go main stage, it's like a Creed concert at Hard Rock. But this dude has a Super Bowl MVP. He did kind of go main stage with the Eagles that year, and I realized that was a long time ago, but Nick Foles still waiting for the handshake from Tom Brady. That's another thing. Like, he can't even get respect from Tom Brady because he's like his kryptonite. Like, that's another thing he has on. Like, Nick Foles' resume, if you write it out the right way, pretty impressive. Like,
impressive.
That's a good way to put it, like resume, because like you put your resume out there, you're not always giving the full context, but as long as you're not lying, right? You want to make yourself look impressive. Nick Foles could put a great resume out there that is still accurate. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. I mean, you put that at the top, you're like, okay, you have my attention. Like that's how you do it. But it was funny too, Adam. In yesterday's press conference, there was a question asked about Nick Foles, and then I think like minutes later, he tweets out like family vacation because he wasn't at the voluntary minicamps. But Nick Foles, he's aware of what's going on and things like that. But yeah, you put those things at the top of the resume, and you're like, okay.
Adam, I haven't answered your question. Like, what other quarterback? It's very similar in terms of like a guy didn't play a lot. Josh McCown, like he had some games. I remember him taking down Green Bay. Some of that throw against the Vikings with Alshon Jeffrey and that catch along the sideline. That big Monday nighter against Dallas. I think it's like a crowning moment. I think he had like 3-4 touchdowns in that game. And Josh McCown that season, like when he had playing time, like he was throwing over 350 yards every week. That's the defense couldn't stop anybody that year. So if we had an adequate defense, I think his time in Chicago would be remembered a little bit differently.
I think in that game against the Cowboys, Josh McCown had like a garbage time touchdown to Marquise Wilson right at the end. I think I'm getting that right. And I won my fantasy semifinal game on that play, which you're asking me why I would have been like, I'm basically streaming Marquise Wilson in the flex spot, like just hoping for that exact thing to happen. And it did. It was a miracle. So shout out to Josh McCown. That's a good point. Josh McCown kind of being in it. And like similar situation too, where like Nick Foles was behind Mitch Trubisky and then they bring in Justin Fields and then he's like, and that's kind of how Josh McCown probably didn't really get the full respect that he deserved while he was here because everybody was just like, Jay Cutler's the guy. I raised my hand, was part of that. Like I was always one of those people. I was like, Jay's better, and thought they made the right decision there. And then you find out these stories later and you hear about how like Chris Ballard, if he got the job, was just going to move on from Jay Cutler right away. And there were others too that had that same sentiment. You're like, okay, that's why they're the football people.
Yep.
So, I don't think Nick Foles is ever getting the handshake from Tom Brady. Maybe someday they'll be smart enough to do like a good social media bit on that because Brady's really stepped up his social media game, and that could be something really well done at some point when they want to do that.
Didn't he just make a TikTok? Like, like wasn't there a viral video going on like 2 days ago where he's like, "What are you doing?" And I think he's like, I don't know, doing some song, and he's like, "What are you doing?" It's like nothing. But
Brady was making
Tom Brady's. Yeah, I believe so. So Brady's been since he's gone to the Bucs. It's like the likability. If you didn't like Tom Brady before, and I always have, now it's hard not to. It's hard not to because of what he does now.
Yeah, it's impressive, and I think I'm like a marketing guy, so like I like what he's been able to do with his brand ever since he's went over to Tampa Bay. Like he's so much more personable now and relatable, kind of Manning-esque, right? Like Peyton kind of had that same kind of feel, and we didn't get that in New England. I don't know if that's like a Belichick like thing or just like what their culture is like over there compared to like maybe it being a little bit more loose in Tampa Bay, but. Like Nick said, like I wasn't like a Tom Brady like fan. Like I respect the guy. I know how great he is, but he wasn't someone I was going to cheer for. But you go to Tampa and like, okay, like I get him as a person a little bit more than I did just a few years ago. It's
funny you brought up Manning because one of the first times I think we sort of saw Brady come out of his shell like that publicly. If you guys have, I don't know if you guys have watched Peyton's Places at all, but he did one with Brady and they went to Jim Nance's house and played. Jim Nance has a par 3 hole in his backyard. And they like, I don't want to ruin the whole thing, but it's like even this pulling up to the gate and Jim Nance isn't home or something. And they have to guess the password. Like just to get the code to get in the gate. It's like it's just that they're both like comedians in it. It's really, really funny. So you see Brady kind of come out of his shell there, and those guys had their own little rivalry. So maybe there's a day where Nick Foles and Tom Brady can come together for something like that. I don't know. Let's take some questions here at the end of the show to wrap up the week and have a little bit of fun. This one coming, if you guys were the GM and these guys were available for the same price, who would you trade for? AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, or Deebo Samuel?
That's a really good question.
That's interesting.
And because they're all really good and different receivers too, right? They have so many different strengths. We were talking about Deebo yesterday, Adam, and I know we said if he leaves that system, would he be the same? And most likely not. But man, I really like Deebo Samuel, especially what he was able to do against the Packers in the playoffs, but just the versatility he provides. If you could somehow get that, you would just have somebody that does everything for you. He makes all those contested catches. So I'm going to say Deebo Samuel, but what about you guys?
I'm leaning Deebo's way too. Like you said, there's so many ways that he can be utilized. You can line him up in the backfield. You can get him on those jet sweeps, and he's a damn good receiver on top of it all. It's hard to pass up on a guy that's so multifaceted if, everyone is on, the same price. I mean, you can make an argument for like a DK or an AJ Brown to be like a compliment to Darnell Mooney. Like I can have that's a conversation I think would be viable here as well.
I'm going to go DK Metcalf. I think that he is that kind of big, fast target that the Bears lack and will really make things almost perfect for Darnell Mooney to continue to ascend in his career. I just feel like that's the best fit and the biggest need. My problem with Deebo, I have all the respect in the world for Deebo Samuel, but if he wants to get traded because he doesn't want to be used the same way, then I have concerns about how much success he's going to actually have going forward. Like, I think he's being used in the perfect way for his talents. And instead of appreciating that, he wants to go show that he can just be a number one wide receiver somewhere. And I just have my doubts about that.
Wait, so does he just not want the contact anymore? In playing that box? Is that what I didn't know that was the reason why he wanted out.
Well, there's a few reasons, but I think that's part of it. It was he wants to show that he's, we've heard a few things. We've heard he doesn't want to really be a running back anymore. He wants to, wasn't there something he wants to live closer to South Carolina or the Southeast?
Something
where he's
like
from.
that.
Yeah. And then Johnny says right here in the comment, I worry about Deebo's shelf life.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of wear and tear on a guy. And
that's kind of what I'm getting at. I think to get the most out of Deebo, you got to play him the way that Kyle Shanahan has been playing him. And then, yes, I think it's fair to worry about a shelf life there. So to me, it's a great question. It's a fun question, especially because we don't have to worry about trade compensation the way you phrased the question. So thank you for that. Yeah. But of those four guys, and being somebody who really appreciates Terry McLaurin too, I'm going to take DK Metcalf.
You get slept on too, Terry McLaurin. He's just so consistent, and someone kind of compared him to Stephon Diggs in the route running. I could see that. I could see that a lot with Terry McLaurin, but yeah, he's definitely those are just really four good young receivers in this game right now. But yeah, Terry McLaurin, I really like a lot too.
So I guess that idea that you want to play closer to home was a report. I'm just checking this out right now. And then he kind of shut it down. Anyway, regardless, there's a lot out there on Deebo and why he wants to trade, and it's an interesting conversation. So I don't know what the truth is. I don't think it's really come out exactly why he wants to trade, but for somebody that's having that much success there, it is a weird type of situation. All right, what else we got for questions here before we can get out of here for the weekend? I know I saw one from Brian Schuster earlier in the show. Are you seeing any difference between how Eberflus and Nagy hold practice? Eberflus seems way more detailed than Nagy.
The only thing, Adam, I could say about what Eberflus does and what he even did these past couple of practices, he's been very on the offensive side, just kind of watching Like he was with the offensive line for a good like 10, 15 minutes in yesterday's practice, but he has made it, I think, a focal point, especially in yesterday's practice, to kind of just watch that side of the ball. But I don't know about the difference. It's way too early to see in voluntary minicamp what he does differently as opposed to Nagy. I don't know if you saw anything different, but that's the only observation I really got.
Well, I think the one thing that definitely stood out is just how much the defense truly was actually running around the field and hustling, 100%. The example Eberflus gave the other day about the backside defensive end, making sure they pursue the ball. The whole defense, that's their thing. Get at least 7 guys to the football for a team tackle. That's popped out to me. I also noticed that the offense has been like the exact opposite, where it's been very, very slow and methodical, especially in between plays. There's been a lot of time, like way more than the play clock would be. But I think that is probably just a product of them sort of slowly installing the offense. I would expect that to pick up when they get to training camp, when they want to try to get as many reps in as possible. So I think that was probably just more of a byproduct of this being the first mini camp and them installing things. So, it's a weird thing. It's a great question that I don't think we have enough information yet in front of us to truly answer completely accurately. I will say and I talk about this sometimes in the jobs that we have. Sometimes you just trust your instincts, or you have a feeling or a vibe. And I would just say this. There's a vibe that I am feeling that just these guys are on top of things. That they're on top of things. And it's just like small sample size of information. I really liked that despite the fact it was barely raining or not raining at all on Wednesday, they went inside the bubble to have practice, because at some point you're going to have to do that anyway. And why not take advantage of the opportunity to kind of just investigate your own facilities and see how a practice would run, because you're eventually going to have to do that. And it's just little stuff like that. I'm like, it just makes sense. It makes sense. And we're not saying, well, why the hell are they doing this?
The details. They're really, putting it under the microscope. Whether it's something like that, or like Andrew Janoko talking to Justin Fields after it's like they are really harping on the details and getting that squared away right now. So, let's see if that, and it should carry on as they kind of continue here, but details.
I know I'm not in the building, but like you, Adam, like I'm getting that like a vibe of like, I think, Eberflus can lead a team and a coaching staff better than the previous coach. Like at least what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing, like it seems like you said, he's on top of things. I liked when he was talking about the draft and like going to his coordinators, like, hey, we're going to go the complete opposite way. Like you make the case to me why we need to be drafting, on your side of the ball, just a little bit more, like fun things like that. I think are showing like what kind of culture they're going to have. And I know we're running close on time, but before we went live, there was someone asking about our thoughts about, the new tackle, the Davenport that the Bears signed. I think there's a reason why we didn't talk about him until, right here at this exact last moment. But I mean, at least a short, quick synopsis is, he's someone that played for Eberflus, even though he's an offensive guy, but he's, on the same team in Indianapolis. Career-wise, hasn't been great. He's someone that has struggled, in pass protection throughout the majority of it. And I think he's just someone that the Bears can bring in now to be a body that's not Borum or Jenkins. And ideally, they can draft someone to kind of push even like a Davenport, down the depth chart a bit. He may be an okay swing tackle, but I think the Bears can definitely improve on it from here as well. I would love for the Bears to get in a position where Borum is your swing tackle. And if they can get there, I think they're in a really good spot. But I think Davenport's someone to, get some reps in that isn't, a top guy or one of those younger players right now to be a second or a third stringer just to be out there on the field.
Yeah, well said, Will, because that was another thing that you just sort of saw at practice this week. You're just like, who are the tackles behind Larry Borum? Like, all this talk about Larry Borum and Devin Jenkins, but it's like, then Latavius Simmons, like we saw Latavius Simmons. Like, so, Davenport, I kind of feel like potentially fills that role. Like that's the role he's going to be fighting for. And that he is reportedly signing with the team. I don't think that one wasn't announced yet though, right?
The Bears have not
Not by the-
announced
yeah.
it. I think Pro Football Network came out with the report last night, if I'm not mistaken.
We know he tried out though, because that
Right.
was reported by that was on the transaction wire. But yeah, interesting guy to potentially bring in. We'll see if that deal gets finalized. Probably a physical and things like that involved.
Which is important. We learned this.
We've seen that.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. Next week is a big week. Nunu wants that jacket, Nick.
My dad wouldn't be happy, so I can't do it, Nunu. Sorry about that.
He's not giving it up. Draft week. It's here. Olin Kurtz is back. We are going to actually have 6 shows for you next week with the draft. So, yeah, I think Nick just found that out with his reaction. And we're going live with the picks, all kinds of stuff coming your way. We have a mock draft show coming for you, a special show that we're going to be doing in the middle of the week. Ryan Poles talks on Tuesday. Olin Kurtz is back. So next week's going to be loaded. Appreciate all the support and all the love. Keep the peace on Twitter, everyone. All right. Just keep the peace.
Keep the
Follow
peace.
us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Nicholas Moreano, at Will DeWitt. The L's are ones. Follow him there. And at CHGO_sports_Bears. If you want to come out tonight, Third Rail Tavern, come see us. Bears, Bucks, watch party. Go Bulls. We'll talk to you then.
Seared.